The infamous book, Journey to the New World, speaks of 5 threats hailing from the Dark Continent, each sent to the human realm by the mysterious Gatekeeper clan to teach humanity a lesson. Don't ever come back. Each of the 5 threats on their own pose an existential threat to all of humanity. They are regarded as immensely dangerous and hostile beasts to be feared and constrained, but is that really what they are? Our biggest gleam into the psyche of these threats is Nanika, referred to in the Journey to the New World as I. Nanika is decidedly not an evil being. She only grants wishes, as Killua says, to get praise. She wants to make friends and be loved, a motivation that seems pretty incongruous with the perspectives of the humans who'd visited her home. Surely she must be an outlier, right? Maybe everything else on the Dark Continent is a harbinger of destruction, as described by Journey to the New World, and Nanika changed after combining with Aluka. Yet, wasn't Nanika seen as a monster to be feared and constrained by the Zoldyks? What would the Zodiacs think if they found out about her? Likely, they'd immediately both covet and fear her power, picturing the good they could do by controlling her and the evil hands they couldn't let her fall into. But how many of them would forego those feelings and genuinely try to do what was best for Aluka and Nanika themselves? Even though they'd act warmly towards Aluka and Nanika, the Zodiacs would likely aim to control them, whether directly or indirectly, not all that fundamentally different from the Zoldyks. Nanika is a reflection of humanity, kind when others are kind and cruel when others use her powers selfishly. She approaches others with something to offer and asks for something equal in return. She even follows orders when they're demanded of her. On its face, it's actually quite innocent. Yet when faced with power, humanity so often succumbs to greed and fear. Nanika means well, but the scale of her world is so different from ours that human logic doesn't apply to her. One thing we know about the threats, as explained by Jing, is that each of them are protecting a precious resource. Isn't that exactly what humanity does? Take control of resources and protect them for their own posterity? We also know that humans enter the Dark Continent with the intent to take those resources for themselves. It makes sense that the humans would see the creatures of the Dark Continent as savage beasts. They lie in the way of humanity's plundering and are immensely powerful. Humanity is to the Dark Continent what the Chimera ants were to us, a young and naive species with unplaced self-confidence and entitlement, entering a world much bigger than themselves with the goal of conquest. The fundamental misunderstanding between humans and the beings of the Dark Continent is spawned by this entitlement. If someone met Nanika and didn't immediately try to take advantage of her, but faced her with empathy and respect, they could reach a mutual understanding and even become friends. And the same could likely be said for the other threats. They're not out to destroy humanity, but to protect their own place in the world. What if this was the lesson the Gatekeepers were trying to teach humanity? Not that they shouldn't return, but that they'll inevitably fail if they hold entitlement, greed, and fear in their hearts. And that brings us to who I think is the best suited hunter to traverse the Dark Continent. The only one who could not only survive, but connect with the continent's inhabitants and create meaningful connections. Melody. While everyone else would immediately go into overthinking hunter mode, trying to figure out the best way to defeat or take advantage of whoever they faced, Melody would immediately understand the true nature of the situation. That it wasn't a battle of humanity versus the Dark Continent, it was something much more nuanced. Her ability would also be perfect for pacifying both humanity and the creatures of the Dark Continent, and allow her to open up a bridge of understanding. Humanity would have a lot to gain from the Dark Continent, but it wouldn't come through conquest. It would come through empathy and mutual understanding. If they were able to foster a positive relationship with the continent's inhabitants, it's possible they could procure some amount of resources without casualties, that they could improve the lives of all of humanity, as well as the lives of those living on the Dark Continent, by offering them something in return. The real answer would be accepting that we're not special, we aren't invincible. We're a species of animal that exists within the framework of a world far beyond our comprehension. This has been Evan. Thank you for watching.